In a small town outside Seattle, there lived a boy named Ethan Miller. He wasn't born rich, but he had always dreamed big. His father worked long hours in a factory, and his mother took extra shifts at a diner just to keep the lights on. Ethan grew up believing that love could conquer everything, until he met Lily Carter, a quiet, gentle girl who lived in the same neighborhood. Lily's life was even harder. Her father had left when she was 10, and her mother cleaned houses for a living. She used to walk home from school with Ethan every day, carrying her worn-out books in a faded backpack. They were both poor, but their dreams were beautiful. Ethan wanted to become an architect, Lily wanted to open a flower shop and fill her world with color. They fell in love not because of what they had, but because of what they saw in each other: hope. Their love started with little things: late-night talks, long walks by the river, and shared ice cream cones under the city lights. Ethan would tell her about his dream house designs, and Lily would listen as if he was already famous. She believed in him more than he believed in himself. But love isn't always enough. When Ethan got into a prestigious university in New York, things began to change. The new city opened his eyes to a different world: expensive cars, rich classmates, and parties where money seemed to matter more than kindness. Ethan began to feel embarrassed when Lily called. He started replying less, using "I'm busy" as an excuse. Lily noticed. She felt the distance growing like a cold wall between them. One evening, she called him and said softly, "Ethan, am I losing you?" There was silence. Then he said, "Lily, I just need to focus on my future right now. You wouldn't understand this world." Her heart broke that night. And just like that, the boy who once swore he would never leave her, walked away. 5 years passed. Ethan graduated, got a job at a big architectural firm, and eventually got engaged to a wealthy businesswoman named Samantha Brooks, daughter of a real estate tycoon. Everyone said Ethan was lucky. He had success, status, and a life people envied. But deep down, something was missing. Every now and then, he'd pass by a flower shop and think of Lily, her smile, her laughter, her soft hands covered in petals. He wondered where she was, but pride always stopped him from finding out. Until one day, Ethan and Samantha were finalizing their wedding guest list. Samantha said with a laugh, "I invited some people from your old town. Maybe your childhood friends will be impressed when they see what you've become." Ethan smiled awkwardly, but something inside him felt uneasy. The day of the wedding arrived, a lavish ceremony at a grand hotel overlooking the city skyline. The air was filled with the scent of roses and champagne. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a designer tuxedo, but his reflection felt like a stranger. Guests began arriving in luxury cars: BMWs, Bentleys, and Teslas. And then, a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up at the entrance. Everyone turned their heads. From the car stepped out a woman in a stunning white gown, her presence graceful yet powerful. Her hair glowed under the soft lights, and her eyes carried both beauty and mystery. Ethan froze. It was Lily. The girl he had once left because she was too poor. But she was no longer the same Lily. There was elegance in her every move, confidence in her smile. The crowd whispered her name in awe. Someone near Ethan murmured, "That's Lily Carter, the owner of Bloom and Grace, the luxury floral brand that designs for celebrities." Ethan's heart stopped. Lily, the girl who once dreamed of opening a flower shop, had become a national name. And there she was, walking past him, as if he was just another guest. Later that night, Ethan couldn't resist. He found Lily standing alone by the balcony, looking at the city lights. For a moment, it felt like time had turned back. "Lily," he whispered. She turned, her eyes calm but unreadable. "Ethan," she said softly, "congratulations." Her voice was gentle, but there was a distance in it that hurt more than anger ever could. "You look incredible," he stammered. "Thank you." "You do too," she replied, her gaze steady. There was silence between them, the kind that holds all the words that could have been said but never were. "I didn't know you'd become so successful," he said finally. "You didn't ask," she said simply. You were busy building your future. He lowered his head. Lily, I was young and stupid. I thought money was everything. She smiled, not with bitterness, but with peace. And did it make you happy? Ethan didn't answer. You know, she said softly, I used to think losing you was the worst thing that could happen to me. But now I realize, it was the beginning of everything. Then she looked at him one last time and walked away, her perfume lingering like a memory that would never fade. That night, Ethan stood by the window, watching her car disappear into the distance. For the first time in years, he felt truly poor, not in wealth, but in soul. That night, long after the guests had gone, Ethan sat alone in his hotel suite. Samantha was asleep, her diamond ring glinting under the moonlight, but Ethan couldn't close his eyes. His thoughts were haunted by Lily, her calm face, her quiet confidence, her words echoing like truth. He remembered their last night together, years ago, before he left for New York. They had sat on the old wooden bench outside her mother's small house. Lily had given him a notebook filled with sketches of flowers. So you can design something beautiful one day, she'd said. He had promised to keep it forever. But in the chaos of city life, he'd lost it, just like he'd lost her. Now, he wished he hadn't. He searched her name on his phone. Lily Carter, founder and CEO of Bloom & Grace, one of America's most successful floral design companies. He scrolled through pictures, Lily at charity galas, Lily shaking hands with celebrities, Lily smiling with that same humble grace he once loved. His chest tightened. She had built everything she'd ever dreamed of, without him. 5 years ago, after Ethan left, Lily's world had fallen apart. For months, she couldn't eat or sleep. But one day, while walking past a local market, she saw an elderly woman selling wilted flowers. Something inside her broke open. She bought the flowers, went home, and started arranging them in her mother's old vases. For the first time in months, she smiled. Flowers, they didn't ask questions, they just bloomed, even in broken soil. That night, she decided to turn her pain into something beautiful. She started selling handmade bouquets from her porch. At first, people ignored her. But her designs had soul, she mixed colors with emotion, turning petals into poetry. A local cafe owner noticed her work and offered to display her arrangements. One thing led to another, word spread, clients grew, and soon, Lily was running her own small business. Her mother used to say, "Child, sometimes the heart must break so it can let the light in." Lily never forgot that. Years later, investors noticed her brand. She moved to Seattle, then New York, built Bloom & Grace, and became a symbol of resilience and elegance. But no matter how high she climbed, a small part of her heart remained in that small town, with the boy who once taught her how to dream. Back in New York, Ethan's marriage was falling apart. Samantha was ambitious, sharp, and practical, everything he thought he wanted. But there was no warmth between them, no laughter, no quiet love like he had with Lily. One night, after an argument, Samantha threw his old college photo album across the room. "You live in the past, Ethan. Maybe you should have married that poor girl you left behind." He didn't reply. Because deep down, she was right. He sat alone, flipping through old photos until he found one, him and Lily, sitting on the riverbank, her head resting on his shoulder. They were smiling like the world belonged to them. Tears filled his eyes. Success, wealth, luxury, none of it mattered. He had traded real love for a glittering cage. Months later, Ethan received an invitation that made his heart race, Bloom & Grace Charity Gala, benefiting children's homes. The event was in New York. He told himself he was going for charity, but deep down, he knew he was going for her. When he arrived, the venue was a dream, a ballroom filled with flowers, each arrangement speaking Lily's language of beauty and strength. She stood on stage, addressing the crowd, her voice calm and inspiring. "We bloom not because life is easy," she said, "but because we choose to, even in the hardest seasons." After the speech, Ethan approached her. "Lily," he said softly, "you're amazing." She turned, surprised, but not angry. "Ethan." You came. I had to, he said. I wanted to see the woman who taught me what real success means. For the first time in years, she smiled at him, a real smile, gentle and warm. You look different, she said. Life changed me, he replied. Mostly through the lessons I learned too late. They sat together, talking quietly, about old memories, about their mothers, about everything and nothing. For a moment, it felt like time hadn't passed at all. A week later, Ethan received a letter. It was from Lily. Ethan, it was good to see you again. I wanted you to know I forgave you a long time ago. You were part of my story, the part that hurt, but also the part that made me strong. I hope you find your own peace too. Lily. He read it again and again, his heart heavy with both sorrow and gratitude. That night, he drove to their old town. He found the wooden bench where they once sat. The paint was chipped, the air smelled of rain, but when he closed his eyes, he could almost hear her laughter again. He whispered, I'm sorry, Lily. I really am. And though she wasn't there, it felt like she heard him. A year later, Ethan attended another Bloom and Grace event, this time as a volunteer. He had quit his high-paying corporate job and started teaching architecture to underprivileged kids. He wanted to build something meaningful again. Lily was there too. They met near the garden outside the event hall. She smiled when she saw him, her eyes soft. You've changed, she said. I had a good teacher, he replied. They stood in silence for a while, the night filled with the scent of roses and rain. Lily, he said finally, do you ever wish things had been different? She looked at him for a long moment. Sometimes, she whispered. But if they were, maybe we wouldn't be who we are today. He nodded. You're right. As she turned to leave, he gently took her hand. Thank you, for everything. She smiled, the same smile that once made him believe in love. Goodbye, Ethan. She walked away, her silhouette fading into the golden lights of the evening. Ethan watched her go, his heart aching yet full. Because sometimes, love doesn't end, it just changes shape, becoming something deeper, quieter, eternal. And as he looked up at the sky, he realized something. She had bloomed, and in a strange, beautiful way, so had he. Please like and subscribe my channel.